Hey everyone, Jeff here. Today I've got a pretty big vinyl update to do, and I also have a little bit of a life update here. Pretty soon I'm going to be going off to college, and I'm not going to be bringing a turntable with me, so I'm not going to have nearly as much time to listen to records as I do now. I'll have breaks, and if I come home for a weekend or something like that. But for the most part, I'm not really going to be listening to a ton of vinyl for the next like 4 years, which is kind of upsetting. I have obviously invested a lot into the collection, and I'm gonna miss it for a few years. But anyway, I guess bottom line is I'm not gonna be buying as much coming up here soon, so I might not shoot as many videos and stuff. But I do absolutely intend to keep the channel alive, and maybe over the next 2 weeks before I head off to school, I'll shoot more videos than usual and maybe focus on some other things in my collection. So in any case, this might be the last update for a little while here, and it might, I might end up doing another one or two before I leave for school. So you never know. But in any case, that's kind of what's going on with me. Hope everyone in the VC is doing well. And I guess I'll just kind of go straight into this update here. I've got a lot of stuff to show since I haven't done an update in a little while. But first thing I want to address here is that Eric Dust, whose YouTube channel I believe is EJD something, there's numbers, I forget exactly the channel. Sorry, Eric. But he sent me a really, really generous VCLT package a little while ago. And most of these records I did not have. And I think that this is the only one I did have. And this was a really nice upgrade copy. So, Song of Seven by John Anderson. The sleeve that I had originally was in pretty good shape, but the record was a little scratchy. So I switched it out. The one that Eric sent me is just really mint, and really happy to have an upgrade of this. This isn't the best John Anderson solo album by any stretch. I would say that would be the first one that he put out, I guess, Elias of Sanhillo. That's a really great album. This one is okay. It has some moments. But thanks a lot to Eric for that. And some other things that Eric sent me here. City of Fear by FM. I believe these guys are a Canadian prog band. And this is good stuff. I really like, they're a name where I've heard them tossed around a little bit, but I've never really listened. And it's kind of poppy, a little bit more straight ahead, but still definitely a little bit more complex and progressive than typical radio rock stuff. So thanks a lot, Eric, for giving me this, and I'll have to keep an eye out for more FM stuff because I certainly like what I heard here. And he also sent me Birdie, which was the soundtrack to the movie, which was done by Peter Gabriel, and this is good. I have the other soundtrack that Peter Gabriel did. Can't remember the name of the movie right now. Is it The Last Temptation of Christ or something like that? I forget what the name of the movie is, but I think the album is called Passion. But in any case, this is kind of similar to that. Ambient, very kind of mellow, a little bit background. Certainly, nothing like, if you're familiar with his self-titled albums or his work with Genesis, it's nothing like that. But definitely an interesting piece to add to the collection, and thank you, Eric, for this. Eric also sent me Mysterious Traveler by Weather Report. This I have most Weather Report albums, and this was just a hole in my collection. So thanks a lot, Eric, for that. Rabbit. This is kind of interesting. I've heard of these guys before, and this is kind of like straight ahead, hard rock, arena rock, that sort of thing. It's pretty good. Decent songwriting, decent hooks, good guitar solos. Nothing to blow you away or anything, but pretty solid stuff, and I'm happy to have it. Then Manzanera's K-Scope here. I'd seen this album before. I guess this is some other folks play on here that grabbed my attention. Let me look on the liner notes here. But anyway, Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music. This is his solo album here. Yeah, Simon Phillips plays drums here. Mel Collins plays sax. So, yeah, kind of interesting stuff. Simon Phillips is an excellent drummer, and he does a really great job on this album. But yeah, on the whole, really good stuff, and I wish I had picked this up sooner. But thanks a lot, Eric, for this. Also, Acting Very Strange by Mike Rutherford. This one has Stuart Copeland on drums, which he's not enough to really save this one, in my opinion. I really dig Small Creeps Day, but this is just, it's kind of just lame pop rock, and it's not even as catchy as like what Genesis was doing at the time. And I'm not really even the biggest fan of a lot of their like the self-titled Genesis album and Invisible Touch. I just not the biggest fan of those, and this isn't even up to that level in my opinion. It's really just eh. But I am a really big Genesis fan, and I do like collecting Genesis, so I am happy to have this in the collection. So thank you, Eric, for that. And also, this was the highlight of what Eric sent me. Western Vacation. This features some Zappa alumni, and you can definitely hear it. And I'm pretty sure somewhere here there's a guitar solo. Yeah, under the name Reckless Fable, but I believe it's actually Steve Vai. Um, so it's kind of interesting. And then you also have some other Zappa alumni here. I'm trying to think. Can't really look through everything here, but I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Bob Harris was in Zappa's group. So yeah, really cool to get this. Thanks a lot, Eric, for it, and very very good stuff. Kind of progressive fusion sort of thing. So anyway, that concludes all the stuff from Eric. So thank you a lot, man, and I'll keep an eye out for stuff for you. I'm just looking for things that you might not have and might enjoy. So thanks a lot for that. And then now I'll get into the stuff that I've picked up, and I've got a lot of records here to show. So the first little batch here, I went to Europe for 2 weeks earlier this summer, and I went to London for a few days. I went to Paris for a few days, and then I did a bunch of stuff in Italy. So it was really just an amazing trip. But when I was in London, I visited a couple record stores, Reckless Records, and there was another one that I can't remember the name of it. But in any case, I picked up a couple albums. I just not much. I didn't have much of a budget for vinyl on the trip, but what I really wanted to do was just kind of get stuff that wasn't too expensive but a little hard to come by in the U.S. So I got a bunch of Marillion 12-inch singles. This is the one for Kaylee, Incommunicado. This is from the Clutching at Straws album, and Heart of Lothian from Misplaced Childhood. I'm a really big Marillion fan, and you really don't see those 12-inch singles in the States very often. And, I'm just a big Marillion fan, so I wanted to have them in my collection. And I also got We Can't Dance by Genesis. And this is one where it's a little tough to find in the States, but I only paid like 10 or 15 pounds for this in the UK. So it was easier to come by there, and I never have seen this in a record store over here. So really, really happy to get this. And for my money, this is just the most criminally underrated album. Just one of the most criminally underrated albums that I have. Really, it's just, there's so many good tracks on here. Fading Lights, Dreaming While You Sleep, Driving the Last Spike. They're progressive. Great drumming, really tasteful synthesizers, good atmosphere, great melodies, and there's one stinker on here, I Can't Dance. But on the whole, it has a really really great production. The songwriting's decent. It's just the whole thing really sounds excellent to me, and for whatever reason, a lot of people just don't like this album, and I don't know, I just find it interesting because I'm not really that into most of the '80s Genesis albums, but I love this one. So anyway, kind of interesting, but very, very happy to have this in the Genesis collection. So let's see, I've also got a couple Zappa records here. These were given to me as graduation presents from high school by my grandmother. And Finer Moments, which this came out I think it came out in 2014, maybe like 2013, somewhere in there. But anyway, a relatively new release that was actually compiled by Frank Zappa, but just wasn't released or anything. And it's cool. It's cool. It's a bunch of stuff that just wasn't out there, and really nice vinyl, heavy, good gatefold, the whole thing. So really, really happy to have this. This is just one of those, like, I'd seen it around, I want it, but I tend to not spend a lot on vinyl, and my grandma knew that I wanted it, and she got it for me. So really, really happy to have that. And she also picked up this, The Mothers of Invention at Woolman Rink in Central Park on August 3rd, 1968. And this is a double live LP that was released on the Keyhole label in 2014. So I don't actually think that this is an official release, really, but as far as I know, it's a full show. They do a bunch of tracks. They're really The Help I'm a Rock, Big Leg Emma, Holiday in Berlin, Orange County Lumber Truck. So just really, really cool stuff. And if you're a Zappa collector like me, this is the sort of thing to get. So really, really happy about those. Now, let's see. This is one that I picked up. Lady Lake by Nidralog. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know. But anyway, progressive rock group. Kind of sounds somewhere in between maybe like Jethro Tull, Vandergraaf Generator, and Genesis. It's melodic, but it's kind of eclectic and out there a little bit, and there's a lot of really excellent flute work here. So really, really great progressive rock album. This is, people that listen to more progressive rock than just like a casual listener probably have this one. But if you're just getting into the genre or something like this is one to certainly get after you've heard, Yes, Genesis, and so on. So really happy to have that. Now this was a $2 find. I just got it because it's jazz. I didn't really know much about it, but it's Dance of the Sun by Eddie Marshall. And this is just a jazz album from the 70s. It's, the artwork certainly doesn't really grab your attention, and none of the musicians, I guess Bobby Hutcherson on vibraphone, I do know who he is. But the other musicians here didn't ring a bell for me. And Eddie Marshall is actually a really, really good drummer. There's some stuff on here that just blew me away. And the vibe work from Bobby Hutcherson is really solid too. So definitely a good album. I don't know how much this usually goes for, but if you see it, it wouldn't hurt to pick it up if you're into jazz. So very cool to get that. I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker here because I just have a ton of stuff to show. Another jazz one here is Mysteries by Keith Jarrett. This is on ECM, I believe. Or no, this is ABC Impulse. But it's definitely more on the experimental avant-garde side of jazz. But if you're into free jazz, this certainly isn't a bad album. And there's some really interesting ideas that they bounce off one another, but it does kind of meander a little bit, I think. But still very cool to get that. This was something that just grabbed my attention because Billy Cobham plays drums, and Billy Cobham for me has always been a guy that I look up to. But this is Atmospheres featuring Clive Stevens and friends, and this is like just 70s fusion. Actually, Ralph Towner's on here, and so is John Abercrombie. So pretty star-studded lineup, and for whatever reason, this album is mostly unknown. At least from what I understand, and it's definitely solid stuff. If you're a fan of maybe like Mahavishnu Orchestra, Return to Forever, that sort of stuff, this might be up your alley. I've got a couple Canadian prog albums here that I picked up at Steve Grauer's store, and these are just excellent. Legendes, or Legendes, something like that, by Le Match. And this is... I'm trying to think. There are shorter songs here. It's a more compact form of progressive rock that almost resembles like Gentle Giant. The lyrics are in French, and it's a really strong album, and it's obscure and not many people know about it. So really cool stuff, and if you have to seek this out, I would definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Gentle Giant. And then I also got by Sloach. Sloach, I believe is how you pronounce that. Jin Vale. I'm not even gonna try, but here's the cover. And this is it's kind of fusiony at times. Really, really just strong progressive rock. I paid $20 for this, which is more than I would usually pay. But I've been curious about this for a while, and I just finally decided. I saw it in a store, and I had to get it. So really good stuff. It's somewhere in between, maybe like Yes and Mahavishnu Orchestra is how I would describe it. It's just really strong music. And if you're a fan of progressive rock, this is something worth seeking out again. Let's see, I still have a little stack here. Attic Thoughts by Bo Hansen. I have the Lord of the Rings album and then one other by him, but this I saw and it was pretty cheap if I remember correctly. And the cover's kind of funny. I do like it. I find it funny that he is like a cricket there or something, but anyways, Swedish progressive rock, very symphonic, very melodic, pretty sounding at times. And if you're a fan of that sort of thing, this is pretty good. And actually, this made the most impression on me of any of the Bo Hansen albums that I've heard. I really enjoyed this. So very happy to get that in the collection. Let's see what else I got here. Also picked up at the Princeton Record Exchange. I got some records there. This is Patrick Moraz and Bill Bruford, Music for Piano and Drums. And this just grabbed my attention because I'm a big fan of Yes and, Moody Blues, just these two musicians in general. And they were in Yes at different times. By the time Patrick Moraz was in Yes for the Relayer album, Bill Bruford had already left. So it was just interesting to me that they had done a collaboration album together. And this is interesting music. It's just piano and drums. It's exactly what you would think from the title. And just really good musicianship and interesting stuff. So very happy to get that. And I also found the other album that they made together, Flags. This one is a little bit more dated sounding than the other one just because of some of the keyboard tones that are used. Here it's not limited to just piano anymore. But still a solid album, and if you're a fan of these two musicians, certainly wouldn't be a bad thing to get. So nice to add those to the collection. And let's see what else. Also got Basket of Light by the Pentacle. And this is folk music, really good. I would need to listen to it another couple times to really get it, but from what I remember, I did enjoy hearing this. And this was something that I had been searching for forever, and I could just never find it. And then eventually I stumbled across it, and it was pretty cheap. I'm pretty sure I only paid like $5 for it or somewhere in there. But Night on Bald Mountain by Fire Ballet. And this is just a really good progressive rock album in the vein of like Yes, Genesis, Renaissance. That's like very symphonic, very big. And it also Star Castle would actually be a really good reference point here. It sounds a lot like Star Castle. But anyway, what really got me about this album is I went to a festival with my dad in 2008, I guess it would have been, called the Three Rivers Prog Fest in Pittsburgh. And for whatever reason, there were sampler CDs of this album being handed out. I guess there was a reissue of it coming or something like that. And there were sample discs being handed out, and they just had like the first track or something like that on them. So I got that, and I listened to that song, and I really, really liked it, but I could just never find the album. So since 2008, I've kind of been wanting to hear what this Fire Ballet album sounds like, and I just never saw it in a store or anything. And I finally have it 7 years later. So very cool to get that. Also, let's see, I've got a lot of jazz stuff here that I'll talk about. Characters by John Abercrombie. This was a cheap find. This is just John Abercrombie on guitar and mandolin. And very mellow, kind of relaxed. It didn't make a huge impression on me, but definitely a solid album. And if you see it for like $2 or $3 like I did, certainly not a bad thing to pick up. Another cheap find here was First Circle by the Pat Metheny Group. I like Pat Metheny a lot. I haven't really heard anything from him that I haven't liked. So this is, really solid album, and very happy to get that. Now here's another one that I bought without really knowing much about it. Free Fall by Pat Rebello, I guess is how you would pronounce it here. This was $3, and the only reason I picked this up was because I saw that Tony Levin plays bass and Steve Gadd plays drums. And both of those guys, in my experience, have really just played on a lot of excellent music, and they're great musicians, so I figured that it wouldn't hurt to pick this up for a couple dollars. And this is really, really solid jazz. It has fusion tendencies, but then it also has a lot of more like atmospheric and melodic sections where it's not really jazz. It's just Pat playing the piano or something. And it's just interesting. It's a good album, and it's another one of those jazz albums where it's just kind of, it came out, it sold however many copies it did, and just these days a lot of folks don't know about it. So really, really good stuff here. And see, I've got one more jazz album to show, and that's Cloud Dance by Colin Walcott. And it's sort of jazz. I mean, it is jazz, but it's not what you would typically think of when you think of jazz. Colin Walcott plays the sitar and the tabla here. John Abercrombie's on guitar, Dave Holland's on bass, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. So really, really strong lineup, and the music's really pretty good throughout. There's a lot of strong soloing, and the rhythm section in general is just really tight and interesting. So good album, and of course it's on ECM, so generally ECM puts out good stuff in my opinion. So very cool to get that. And then I have a couple more to show here. House of Blue Light by Deep Purple. I picked this up because it was just, I think I paid $3 for it. It's actually a pretty good album. It's not anything that rivals the best Deep Purple stuff in my opinion, but certainly an okay album. If you see it cheap, it's not a bad thing to pick up. And let's see, this was a pretty blind buy here. Europe, and it's not the Europe as in like the Final Countdown Europe. It's a different Europe, and I'm not even sure where they're from, to be honest. This is progressive rock stuff, and I only picked it up because it was $3, and it said on the sticker, Prague Dudes First LP. So I like progressive rock, so I picked it up, and it's pretty good. It sounds very 80s, but not in like a neo-prog way, just in terms of like the keyboard tones that are used. It's pretty complex, a little jazzy in spots, certainly not bad. Nothing that made a huge impression on me, but if you just see it floating around for $3, definitely worth picking up. And the last one I have to show here is Jazz from Hell by Frank Zappa. And this is one that I've heard digitally a number of times, but I just never managed to pick it up on vinyl. And I really like this album. It's very weird at times, even for Frank Zappa. Just the whole thing's instrumental, and the compositions at times are very dissonant and alien sounding and almost like unsettling in a way. But the musicianship is excellent, and even though it kind of has a weird side to it, it also, it grabs your attention, and I really do enjoy it. So really happy to pick that up. And that's all I have to show today. So really long video, maybe the longest that I've ever done. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be able to put out some more videos before I head off to college. But in case I don't, thanks to everyone for watching my channel. I really do plan on continuing to put out videos whenever I can, and I'll see you all next time.